Imagine a land at the very bottom of a huge continent. It is a land of beautiful mountains, wide plains, and two great oceans crashing together. But this land holds a deeper secret. Deep under the ground, scientists have found some of the oldest human bones in the world. These are called fossils. Fossils are ancient bones that have turned into hard stone over millions of years. Because of these fossils, many people call this place the cradle of humankind. This means it is the birthplace of all human beings. Today, this country is famous for its bright gold, its wild animals, and its long, painful fight for freedom. This is the story of South Africa. Hi, and welcome to Daily English Origins. Are you learning English? Great! Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started. South Africa is a large country at the southern tip of the African continent. It has beautiful beaches, high mountains, and dry deserts. Today, people call South Africa the Rainbow Nation. A nation is a country. A rainbow nation means a country with many different skin colors, cultures, and languages, living together in one place. But South Africa did not always have peace. For hundreds of years, the people of South Africa fought terrible wars. They fought for land, for freedom, and for human rights. To understand this beautiful and complex country, we must travel far back in time. Long before Europeans arrived, people lived in southern Africa. The first groups were the San and the Khoikhoi peoples. The San were hunter-gatherers. This means they hunted wild animals and gathered wild plants and berries to eat. They did not build permanent houses. They moved from place to place. The Khoikhoi were slightly different. They were herders. A herder is a person who keeps large groups of animals, like cows and sheep. The San and Khoikhoi lived peacefully with nature for thousands of years. They painted beautiful pictures of animals on the walls of secret caves. Around 2,000 years ago, new groups of people moved into southern Africa. They came from the north. These people spoke Bantu languages. They brought new skills with them. They knew how to farm. They planted seeds and grew crops like corn and beans. They also knew how to make tools out of iron. Iron is a very strong, dark metal. With iron tools, they could cut down thick trees and build permanent villages. These farmers settled in the eastern part of South Africa. They lived in large groups and formed strong kingdoms. For a long time, the great oceans kept South Africa isolated. Isolated means far away and separated from other places. But in the 1400s, European countries wanted to find a new way to travel to Asia. They wanted to buy valuable spices like pepper and cinnamon. To get to Asia by ship, European sailors had to sail all the way down and around the bottom of Africa. The southern tip of Africa was very dangerous. The sea was rough and the storms were violent. Many ships sank there. But the surviving sailors also saw beautiful green land. In the year 1652, a man named Jan van Riebeek arrived in South Africa. He worked for a Dutch trading company. The Dutch are people from the Netherlands. a country in Europe. Jan van Riebeeck did not want to conquer the whole country. He only wanted to build a supply station. A supply station is a safe place where tired ships can stop to get fresh food and clean water. The Dutch ships desperately needed this stop on their long trip to Asia. Jan van Riebeeck built a small fort at a place called the Cape of Good Hope. At first, the Dutch only wanted a small piece of land near the ocean, but soon more Dutch people arrived. They wanted to leave the fort and start their own farms. These independent farmers were called boers. Boer is the Dutch word for farmer. The Boers needed a lot of land for their cows and sheep. They began to move deeper into the country. This caused big problems. The land already belonged to the San and Khoikhoi peoples. The Boers fought with the local people and pushed them away from their homes with guns. The Boers also brought enslaved people from Asia and other parts of Africa to work on their farms. In 1795, everything changed again. A new powerful country arrived in South Africa. This was Great Britain. The British wanted to control the important sea route to Asia. They had a huge empire. An empire is a large group of lands controlled by one powerful parent country. The British military took control of the Cape area from the Dutch. The Boers were very angry. They did not want to follow British laws. They wanted to live their own way. So thousands of Boers packed their wooden wagons and moved far away into the dangerous interior of Africa. This great journey set the stage for a massive conflict. The Boers wanted to be free from British rule, so they started a long journey called the Great Trek. A trek is a very long and difficult journey. Men, women, and children walked for hundreds of miles. They traveled in heavy wooden wagons pulled by big animals. It was a very hard life. Many people died from sickness and wild animal attacks, but the Boers kept going. They wanted to find empty land to build their own independent states. However, the land was not empty. As the Boers moved inland, they met the Zulu people. The Zulu formed a very powerful kingdom in southern Africa. A kingdom is a country ruled by a king or queen. Under a famous leader named King Shaka, the Zulu had a strong army. Their soldiers were fierce warriors. A warrior is a brave soldier who fights in battles. When the Boers tried to take Zulu land, terrible wars started. Both sides fought bravely, but the Boers had guns. The Zulu only had spears and shields made of animal skin. Many lives were lost in these bloody conflicts. For a long time, South Africa was mostly a poor farming country. Then in 1867, a young boy found a shiny rock near a river. That rock was a large diamond. A diamond is a very hard, clear, and expensive stone. Suddenly, the whole world looked at South Africa. Thousands of men traveled there from Europe and America. They wanted to get rich. They started digging huge holes in the ground. These deep holes are called mines. Black South Africans were forced to do the most dangerous work in the deep, dark mines for very little money. Only 19 years later, something even bigger happened. People found gold. Gold is a soft, shiny yellow metal that is very valuable. This caused a massive gold rush. A gold rush happens when thousands of people hurry to a new place to dig for gold. A new city was built almost overnight. They called it Johannesburg. It grew from a dusty camp of tents into a noisy, busy city. But the gold brought deep greed. The British Empire saw the wealth of the Boer states and wanted it for themselves. Are you enjoying this story of South Africa? If you are, please take a quick second to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us bring you more amazing historical stories. Now, let's get back to the conflicts that changed the nation. The British Empire and the Boers could not agree on who controlled the gold. In 1899, a terrible war began. It is called the Anglo-Boer War. The British had a huge army. The Boers were only farmers, but they knew the land very well. They hid in the mountains and attacked quickly. To win the war, the British did something very cruel. They burned the Boer farms and put Boer women and children into crowded camps. Many thousands of people died from disease and hunger in these camps. Finally, the Boers had to surrender. In 1910, 8 years after the war ended, the British and the Boers made a peace agreement. They joined their lands together into one big country. This new country was called the Union of South Africa. A union is when different parts join together to become one. The white British and Boer leaders shook hands. But this peace came at a terrible price. They did not give voting rights to the black, Indian, and mixed-race people who lived there. The true owners of the land were left out of the new government completely. The new white government wanted to keep all the power and wealth. So they started to make harsh new laws. These laws created strict segregation. Segregation means keeping different groups of people completely apart by law. White people took the best land, the best jobs, and the best schools. Black people were forced into poor, dry areas. They had to carry special passbooks. A passbook was an identity document that controlled where a person could travel and work. If a black person did not have their passbook, they were thrown in jail. The human struggle for justice was about to become much harder. In the year 1948, the white government created a terrible new system. This system was called Apartheid. Apartheid is an Afrikaans word that means separateness. It was a harsh set of laws that legally separated people by their skin color in every part of daily life. White people lived in rich neighborhoods. Black, Indian, and mixed-race people were pushed into poor areas. They could not use the same hospitals, beaches, or even park benches as white people. The government used violence and fear to keep everyone strictly separated. But the people of South Africa refused to give up. They formed groups to fight against the cruel laws. One of the biggest groups was the African National Congress, or ANC. A bright young lawyer named Nelson Mandela joined this movement. At first, they protested peacefully. A protest is when people march or speak out together to show they are angry about something. But the government responded with guns and violence. So Mandela and his friends realized they had to fight back harder. The resistance had begun. The government was afraid of Nelson Mandela and his power to unite the people. In 1962, they arrested him. They sent him to a terrible place called Robben Island. This was a prison on a cold, windy island surrounded by the ocean. Mandela was locked in a tiny cell. He was forced to break hard rocks with a heavy hammer every day. He stayed in prison for 27 years. But even behind cold iron bars, Mandela's spirit did not break. He became a powerful symbol of freedom for the whole world. While Mandela was in prison, the fight outside grew stronger. Young students marched in the streets. The international world also saw the extreme cruelty of the South African government. Many countries started a boycott against South Africa. A boycott is when people refuse to buy goods or do business with a country to force it to change. Without international money, the South African economy started to fail. Finally, in 1990, the government realized they could not continue. They released Nelson Mandela from prison. After his release, Nelson Mandela did something amazing. He was not angry. He did not want revenge. Instead, he worked with the white government to build peace. In 1994, South Africa held a historic election. For the very first time, people of all skin colors were allowed to vote. Long lines of people waited for hours just to drop a paper in a box. Nelson Mandela won the election and became the first black president of South Africa. The country finally became a true democracy. A democracy is a system where all people have the right to choose their leaders by voting. Today, South Africa is still healing from its deep wounds. It faces modern struggles like poverty, crime, and high unemployment. Unemployment happens when many people do not have jobs. But it is also a nation of incredible resilience and hope. The culture is rich and vibrant. 11 different languages are officially spoken there. It is a country that survived a dark and bitter past to build a future based on forgiveness. The Rainbow Nation stands today as a powerful lesson for the entire world. The story of South Africa teaches us a deep philosophical lesson. It shows us that human beings can endure the darkest of storms. Even when people are separated by hate and unfair laws, the desire for freedom can never be permanently destroyed. And most importantly, South Africa shows us the quiet power of forgiveness. True strength is not found in guns or prisons, but in a leader who walks out of a tiny cell after 27 years and chooses peace over revenge. Hey there, just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like. Write your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.